Oh, you highly
9 o'clock, all legal notices have been posted. Quorum is present. Need a motion, this court is duly called. Need a motion to adjourn the court for the February term.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion second. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of voting.
Aye.
Those who oppose, same sign. Chairs in the affirmative. Need a motion to open the court for the March term.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion second. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of voting.
Aye.
Those who oppose, same sign. Chairs in the affirmative. Bailiff, will you please open the court?
All rise. Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the March 2020 term. The Honorable John Wiley Price presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Today, the invocation is a guest of Dr. Daniels.
Yes, he is. And would the good Gary Cochran please come forward? And he is a minister of single adults and urban missions with the Prestoncrest Church of Christ in Dallas. Gary Cochran has served in full-time ministry for over 30 years, beginning in 1986 as youth minister for 2 years with the Mayfair Church of Christ in Oklahoma City. Then 18 more years with the A&M Church of Christ in College Station, Texas, serving with youth and families, counseling, and community. Since 2006, he has led the various singles ministry of the church. In 2007, Gary initiated and continued to lead Prestoncrest Cover Dallas with Love, citywide urban missions network. He is also a licensed professional counselor, supervisor with a private practice, Campbell Counseling Group in Richardson, Texas, and provides counseling for Prestoncrest and the DFW community. Gary is committed to help people of all ages and life stages to face challenging circumstances, explore healthy next steps in their traditions, and find strength, hope, confidence, resilience, and purpose. He loves working with the next generation and various diverse populations, developing leadership and helping them to discover their giftedness. Gary works with those at Prestoncrest, other churches, community groups, and various service organizations throughout the city, building systematic networks of relationships and partnerships, working together in unity, serving the marginalized populations in Dallas. He is honored to serve in leadership roles in various community organizations, addressing issues of faith, mental health, addiction recovery, poverty, abuse, neglect, exploitation, homelessness, racial reconciliation, and other challenges of life. Ultimately, Gary seeks to serve and empower people, working to create a culture of kindness, safety, love, compassion, and hope found in Jesus Christ. And we so welcome you to here.
And I'm particularly thankful to be a part of this community and friends of Dr. Daniel, representing District 2, and a part of the Citizens Homeless Advisory Committee, and I honor the work done in this city. Let's pray together. You are an awesome God, and we're thankful this morning that you call us to a city and a county, a place called Dallas, where we can serve people, care for people, step in to protect people, and look for the highest good. God, may you bless this time, this gathering, this occasion, every occasion when we come together as citizens and Commissioners Court, and anytime we gather to do well and to do good for this community. Please bless this time. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Welcome to this edition of the Commissioners Court. We will only be considering those matters that have been posted for consideration, and only will retire in the executive session for those matters that are permitted by law. First resolution, Dr. Daniels.
Thank you very much. We are recognizing Women's History Month. And in this particular edition of Women's History Month, I'd like to recognize elected women in the Dallas County area. And we made invitations to all those women who have been elected in Dallas County. And I know that many of them are working this morning, so they may not be here, but I will proceed with this. March is designated Women's History Month, and the month is set aside to honor women's contributions in American history. In February 1980, President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8, 1980 as National Women's History Week. Later, the remembrance was extended to a month-long learning opportunity. This March 2020 marks the 40th anniversary of this recognition. The year 2020 will also mark the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. And whereas each year the National Women's History Alliance selects and publishes the theme, the 2020 Women's History Month theme is Valiant Women of the Vote. The theme honors the brave women who fought to win suffrage rights for women and for the women who continue to fight for the voting rights of others. In his inaugural proclamation, President Carter paid homage to these same women by stating, "I urge libraries, schools, and community organizations to focus their observances on the leaders who struggled for equality: Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth, Lucy Stone, Lucretia Mott, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Harriet Tubman, and Alice Paul. Understanding the true history of our country will help us to comprehend the need for full equality under the law for all our people." And whereas the fight for women's voting rights began in 1840 at the Convention of Women in Seneca Falls, New York, and it would take 72 years to finally secure the right to vote in 1920 with the ratification of the 19th Amendment. The right of citizens, and it's very short, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. And whereas on many women were able to lead to the polls, to head to the polls, the amendment did not give voting rights to all women. Women of color, immigrants, and lower income women were often deterred from voting by laws and social pressures. For example, Native American women were not considered U.S. citizens until 1924 and were not permitted to vote. A century after the ratification of the 19th Amendment, women are still advocating for their rights. This activism would be impossible without the power of the vote that enables women to have a say in the democracy they live in. Whereas today, we honor the women elected to office in Dallas County. So please bear with me because I think it's noteworthy to recognize what has been done here. I'd like to start with Commissioner Dr. Elba Garcia, who sits at this table. District Clerk Felicia Petrie, who's there. Please stand, Felicia. Treasurer Pauline Madrano. I don't see Pauline. Judge Bonnie Lee Goldstein. Judge Stacy Williams. Judge Tonya Parker. Judge Anisha Redmond. Judge Marcella Moore. Judge Gina Slaughter. Judge Bridget Whitmore. Judge Emily Tobolowski. Judge Monica McCoy Purdy. Judge Cheryl Day McFarland. Judge Tina U. Clinton. Judge Nancy Kennedy. Judge Gracie Lewis. Judge Dominique Collins. Judge Janine Howard. Judge Chika Anium. Judge Kim Cooks. Judge Mary Brown. Judge Denise Garcia. Judge Andrea Plumley. Judge Rocky Jones. Judge Tammy Kemp. Judge Jennifer Bennett. Judge Amber Givens Davis. Judge Leah Mays. Judge Stephanie Huff. Judge Tracy Holmes. Judge Andrea Martin. Judge Cheryl Lee Shannon. Judge Demetria Benson. Judge Militia Bellin. Judge Sally Montgomery. Judge Paula Rosales. Judge Julia Hayes. Judge Audrey Moorhead. Judge Lisa Green. Judge Angela King. Judge Ramika Tanisha Edwards. Judge Carmen White. Judge Peggy Hoffman. Judge Etta Mullen. Judge Shakita Kelly. Judge Kristen Wade. Judge Pamela Luther. Judge Brenda Thompson. Judge Ingram Michelle Warren. Judge Margaret Jones Johnson. Constable Tracy Gully. Judge Valencia Nash. Judge Margaret O. O'Brien. Judge Katina Whitfield. Judge Sasha Moreno. Judge Sarah Martinez. Judge Sheriff Marion Brown, and myself, Theresa Daniel. And whereas women have been leaders not only in securing the rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, the peace movement, and other movements which create a more fair and just society for all. Despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and the study of American history, but we are recognizing it today. Now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the Dallas County Commissioners Court and the residents of Dallas County, we call upon all citizens to observe the month of March as Women's History Month, urging all to write women back into history, and I so move.
I probably second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Good job, ladies. And we're not done yet.
All right, I've got the next resolution. If you are an employee of the month, please come forward, and I will begin stating your names here in a moment. But if I could take a moment of personal privilege, we've got quite a bit of the press here, and I want to fill in our folks here, but also we need your help in getting out information. We are experiencing some Republican voters leaving the polling place because they don't see a Republican judge. We need people to know, and we're tweeting this out, that if there is a judge in the polling place, whether they're a Democrat or Republican, with countywide voting, and with the way we're doing this election, you can vote. So whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, if there is a judge in the polling place, you can vote. We had some minor technical difficulties this morning stemming from temporary workers who were hired at the last minute because the parties could not fill their judges, not understanding how to do certain things. Those have been corrected. We'll have those sort of difficulties as we do every election throughout the day. We have 75 technicians that go help people to get it done right when that happens. But the machines themselves, okay, are working properly. And thus far, we're having a good election. One other thing to help tell people is you can go to Dallas County Votes, and there's a map on there. And there's green polling places, there's yellow, and there's red. Right now, they're virtually all green. As the day goes on and more and more people go to vote at the last minute, fellow procrastinators, I hadn't voted yet either this time. As that happens, you'll see some of them yellow or red. The important thing to remember with countywide voting is you can vote anywhere. So you can look, and if the one you normally go to is red or yellow, just go to the green one a half a mile down the street or 2 miles down the street, and you'll be able to get in quickly. Green means 15 minutes or less. Yellow means 15 minutes to 30 minutes. Red means over 30 minutes. I've instructed the elections department that if there's a hint of technical difficulty at a polling place, we'll make it red on the map, so we won't have more voters go there. Again, these technical difficulties are people not quite getting the protocol right that are last-minute additions and temporary workers, and we appreciate everyone's service and work on that, and we'll get that fixed.
You know, and I appreciate all of that, but, you know, as we've constantly said, in a large part of this county, you know, that whole access internet is not an option. I've got a lot of voter population who does not utilize that. And so, you know, as such, you know, we do need to get the word out. But, you know, this so-called, you know, going, you know, it's not as though it's on they're utilizing it. Some of us are still in internet deserts. They need to be able to have individuals at those polling places that says, and you and I both have talked this morning, that, you know, they're having some challenges, but it's all going to work out. They can. We're shifting them to the nearest polling place that is, in fact, as you say, in play. So, and especially in the southern sector.
And definitely there's going to be some challenges, Josh. It's new equipment, new training, new technology. It's going to take some time, but I want to thank you and obviously the elections department and everybody that, you know, is going to be patient today. And like you say, visit the Dallas County votes so you can see where you don't have to wait as much to vote.
But then we do ask if there are other means of getting the word out, that they all be used, because it's the access that is important. And the second point of that is that you can vote in any location.
Correct.
Any location in Dallas County, and there are hundreds of them on this day. So, and there is a listing in the newspapers on that.
More than 290, so, yeah. So,
All right.
places to vote today, please, your vote is your voice. Thank you.
So go vote.
I ain't gonna say nothing about folks who procrastinate.
All right, well, we've got some great Dallas County employees, as we all know, and several of them are here with us today because today is Employees of the Month.
Yay.
And we have, first off, April Craig with Pretrial Services, Sheena Orabur with Criminal Justice, Leticia Letty Dominguez with the Tax Office, Abraham Samuel with the Sheriff's Office, Cameron Davis Stevens with the District Clerk, John Cannon with the Sheriff, Vanessa Elliott with the Sheriff, James Boyd with the Sheriff, and the resolution reads as follows. For the last 7 years, Dallas County has proudly recognized select outstanding employees with a formal resolution honoring their work through the Dallas County Employee Recognition Program created in 2012. This program allows elected officials and department directors to recognize dedicated employees who represent the best and the brightest in their respective areas and across our workforce. And whereas these Dallas County employees are hardworking, dedicated, and play a vital role in achieving the goals and objectives set each year by the Commissioners Court and their immediate supervisors. For most Dallas County residents, these employees represent who we are as a public entity. Their commitment to implement said objectives is what allows Dallas County to be a model governmental agency. These recognized employees perform above expectation and ensure that Dallas County continues to be a regional leader and a destination of choice for residents and businesses. Whereas the Dallas County Employee Recognition Program is consistent with the county's approved administrative plan and sets each of the recognized employees apart as model employees worthy of this honor. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Dallas County Commissioners Court is hereby salute the aforementioned employees for being selected as Employee of the Month in February 2020 for their respective departments and offers our best wishes for continued success at Dallas County, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any of y'all want to say anything?
No.
We couldn't do it without you is what I want to say.
All right.
Common.
Come on, let's take a picture, y'all.
Yes.
We got plenty to do. We got plenty, y'all, come on, post it. Let's go.
Can't do it without you guys, so thank you very much.
Proper shift a little bit. Good, good. Turning, good.
Looking good.
Two.
Next, we'll go to presentations. As Dr. Wong comes forward, I want to remind everyone here, and we'll get more information out on this, but it being March, it is about to be March Madness, that second favorite holiday season behind Christmas. And
Okay.
we'll have brackets like we always do, and my office will get those out. We encourage everybody to participate.
Look, let's, first of all, needless to say, when I read the paper this morning, I must be living in another universe as chairman of public health, because I did not know that. That's number one. Number two, let's set the record straight. We got a call from the State Commission on Jail Standards. I want to make it real clear. There is no coronavirus in the jail. None. We'll make that very clear, because we've already gotten a call from Austin, the governor's office, the State Commission on Jail Standards. There is none. There was an issue with an individual who did not present in the Sally Port and came into intake and gave another version to Parkland. It did not pan out. They did follow protocol, went to the CDC, did have the history of travel. None. There is no issue in the Dallas County Jail. Just wanted for the record.
Or within DPD,
Yeah.
which was the other.
And
Well, no, I want to make that clear,
members
Joe.
of the media, the Dallas Morning News has a quote from Mike Mata, the union representative for the Dallas Police Association, and I think he had the best quote in that story. We have people go, it doesn't mean we don't take all these things seriously and follow protocols, but every day, people who are versed in the system say certain things so they can get a free trip to Parkland. And this person had traveled to Japan. He didn't want to go to jail, so he said he'd been to Japan and was feeling flu symptoms and triggered, you know.
No, he had been, and when we followed.
No, he had been to Japan,
Right.
but he wasn't sick.
I got that.
But
I'm just saying. but-
We have people do this every day, right? They say, oh, I've got heart palpitations and this, that, and the other. So
All I'm
we all
saying-
just got to stay calm.
Well, I got it, but then I wanted it clear, because we've been contacted already. Shannon, by the way, has contacted us, and we assured him that that was not the case. He was contacted by the governor's office, so I just wanted to be clear for the record. It's not the case. Okay.
Thank you for that clarification, and because, again, I will be saying and repeating, at this point in time, there are no confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus in Dallas County.
In Dallas County.
I do want to start out first just with flu, because there are flu, and flu activity still remains high. And again, that's in the U.S. now, we've had an estimated 32 million cases of flu this season, 18,000 deaths. Again, we are still seeing high levels of activity of flu in Dallas County. The latest week, I think the week ending the 22nd of February, we had 20% of tests still returning positive for flu, and we had 127 hospitalizations for flu. So we're not over with the flu season. It is still not too late to get your flu shot if anyone hasn't. And it would be good just overall for everyone really get the flu shot. So I do want to move into update just on the novel coronavirus, and obviously globally and locally very much in the news. You know, the numbers keep changing, and as we've said, it's an evolving situation. The latest numbers, which are hard to keep up with, worldwide cases estimated at 90,000, worldwide deaths over 3,000, 65 different countries now, including the U.S., reporting cases. The case reports, now again, it changes so often. The official CDC website shows 47 confirmed cases in the U.S., but that's been now updated with additional, there's a total of 6 deaths in the United States, and the Washington Post reported 15 states. So these numbers, again, we're seeing it increase, but as I said at the beginning, there are no confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus in Dallas County. But we obviously take the risk for this situation very seriously. We are preparing for any level of response that may be needed. So we're continuing to work with our healthcare providers, with the jail, with schools, businesses, public safety, preparedness, local governments, and others, really to prepare for possible spread of coronavirus. Our activities include the data surveillance, epidemiology, disease monitoring activities, disseminating the latest CDC recommendations and guidance, issuing public health alerts to our local health care providers, county partners, private sector, testing and monitoring of patients or of persons that have been coming from China. It was reported yesterday, over 100 persons have been reported to our system. We are then monitoring them for fever, development of any symptoms during those incubation period. We are in the process, we are developing our lab capacity to offer the test locally, as is the State Health Department down in Austin. We are very close to having that occur, and we hope to implement lab testing very soon. And as a matter of fact, we have an emergency request to help support to try to get a new piece of lab equipment that can help us automate some of those processes and get that, allow us to have even more capacity with that. We're implementing public health education strategies, informing the general public about personal protection strategies, other non-pharmaceutical interventions that can help prevent the spread of this. You know, bottom line, it's, again, we take it seriously. We don't have any cases. It's not a time to panic, but it is a time to prepare. And so, you know, these personal preparation and prevention messages can't be overstated. The simple things like making sure you wash your hands, don't touch your eyes, nose, and mouth, cough or sneeze into your sleeve or into a Kleenex, stay home if you're sick, clean surfaces that are touched frequently, you know, very regularly, and those sorts of things. But at the same time, we're also, again, we are preparing for any level of response that's needed. So we're working with schools, work sites, others, to, you know, look at the plans that we've developed over the years. We've had H1N1 in the past and other situations where we've had continuity of operations plans, things like that. If we do have, you know, for people just to be planning and thinking seriously, if there were school closures, how will you deal with that? What are some options for teleworking, other type of things like that to get, you know, make sure those plans are up to date, and depending on how, you know, this plays out, we just are prepared. So that's where we are. Again, it's not a time to panic, but we do need to be prepared. Yes.
I know that you have just come back from DC, and I just came back from DC, and I asked the question, and you may have more information. There have been, 17 deaths related to flu in Dallas County this year so far. And it appears that the protocol related to coronavirus are very, very similar to how you would respond to flu. Is that right?
Yes.
So what's the difference here? Why the great media attention on this?
Well, it's a novel coronavirus, a new thing. We don't have vaccinations like we do have for flu. We don't have treatment. And, you know, we're still learning more about how easily it spreads, how severe it is. And so there's a lot of unknowns. And as we, you know, look at this and as it develops, that's one of the concerns, sir.
So it's the unknown, and I don't know, I'm still just, it's just interesting to watch how
And some
it's
of,
so
again, some
similar,
of
but it's being
the
treated
data that we're looking at, the severity, the actual severity maybe is more than the flu. But it's you know, 80% of the persons who are being infected have no symptoms or mild symptoms, 15% have severe symptoms, and then another 5% are having critical symptoms. And the deaths, for the most part, have been in persons who are elderly, chronic conditions, other sort of...
which is also very similar to flu, no?
It is similar to the flu, although very different strains of flu have different characteristics also. But the prevention messages, the ways you prevent it are exactly the same.
No, I do take it very seriously also, I agree with you. But I'm just kind of watching what's going on and what's the impact of that.
Right. And one of the things, again, you know, we don't have any confirmed cases, and so we're at a stage where we're in containment. You know, any possible suspect case, we are interviewing them, we're identifying any contacts, following up with them, we're testing them, you know, and that's where we are. At some point, if it becomes widespread, you know, person-to-person contact, then we would move to that more mitigation. Just like with flu, we don't we don't follow up on every flu patient and try to identify the contacts. We're in more of a mitigation, how do you prevent it in the general? And that's what we want everyone to be just prepared.
Thank you very much.
And like you say, Dr. Huang, I think that right now is the time to prevent and prepare.
Exactly.
No reason to panic. Follow, news that are verifiable, and of course, all this about masks. People are calling my office for dental masks. The reality is a mask really doesn't protect you for anything if you're not follow precaution and protocol. So, and unless you are sick, I would recommend that you stay home rather than to put more disposable masks into the environment.
Well, and the mask can run counter, the mask about like anything else, and I don't think there's enough information out
It's a very.
Yeah, and actually, the Surgeon General just put out something about that. And so the masks are not for just well people to be wearing these and walking around, because a lot of times they wind up touching the outside. It's not been shown to really be protective. Now, if there's someone who's sick, putting the mask on helps prevent them from coughing, spreading droplets and spreading the illness. Or if there's someone, like a family member who's caring for a sick person, or like in the hospitals when you're caring for sick people, then
Correct.
it's effective.
Otherwise,
But not, people
stay
aren't,
home.
it's not effective to be just walking around with a mask.
Dr. Wong, I think it's kind of important to have the discussion for the public regarding the big features of the plans. And you kind of laid it out here that at first, we're kind of in a place where we try to quarantine as best we can. But I think it's important for the public to know that once it's widespread, that's over, essentially. That then it becomes incumbent upon the population to stop its spread and slow its spread. And it goes back to those kind of personal responsibility pieces. Hey, listen, wash your hands, don't be touching eyes, nose. And then also, staying home when you're sick. And if you have compromised people, either within your household or, if you're in I want to say old folks home, but retirement community, you want to make sure that you're, not having folks coming in and out that may be exposed to high volumes of folks. I mean, from my understanding, that at some point there's going to be a large population that is carrying the virus that is not very sick. I mean, it's mild in very many cases, and people that are going to be highly ambulatory and they're going to be doing their jobs, and they may not even know they have it, but they may, expose those vulnerable populations. So I guess that's kind of where my big concern is, that at some point, I guess the best we can do and what we're going to be responsible for is protecting those vulnerable communities. What are some of the plans in the past that we have seen and that we've executed well in order to protect those vulnerable communities?
Yeah, and again, there's some of these non-pharmaceutical interventions, the things like, there may be school closures or, some of that, but at work sites, looking at leave policies, so making sure that, people aren't, they can easily, if they're sick, they can take off, that they don't feel like they have to come and work, because we want people who are ill to stay home. To look at if there needs ways to do telecommuting and things like that can, reduce that contact. There's some great guidance. I mean, you can check our website, the Texas Department of State Health Services, and CDC has tremendous guidance that we're all using for many different scenarios, and that's part of our messaging. We're encouraging everyone, again, look at the resources, the recommendations, and it's a planning stage now. Don't panic. We don't have any cases now, but we want to be prepared as this progresses.
What's our relationship with carriers in the messaging? Again, we continue to talk about internet deserts, or at least some of us do. What's our relationship in terms of being able to message with these phones? Because unless we get that kind of messaging in play, then we're going to continue to be challenged.
Absolutely. I mean, we are trying to, work with all the partners. Schools have also talked about their mechanisms of getting things out through the students and that then get to parents in various communities. The media is...
Dallas, yeah, but I'm talking about Dallas County. Are we trying to, I guess, forge a relationship in such a way? We get everything else, and I know Amber is national, but we've got to figure out ways to get this messaging through these phones.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, we are trying to access any outlets, any channels that we can, and if you've got some others to send it out, we are very much looking for every way we can get that out. I know we have a mailing list that we've sent out to over 28,000 persons a couple of times. We're accessing all of our emergency notification channels for, various categories of persons that are on these emergency notification lists. And we're having
Like
some
radio
follow-up
stations
specific, conference calls to disseminate that through.
If we get every dadgum call that we don't want on these damn things, at what point in time are we gonna be able to forge a relationship with these carriers?
Pay money. I mean, the reason why you get those messages is because those folks are paying money. They're paying good money to,
Well, hell, then, in terms, well, I don't know about good money, but, my point is, hell, I pay good money to stop them. But my point is that how do we?
Utilize all
we're talking-
resources.
Yeah, we're talking about help. We're talking about getting the message out. And so I don't know what it costs. Maybe, I guess that's what I'm tasking him with.
If we get into a situation where, I'm in communication with all those carriers now, regarding some other things, mainly census. And so we have all their contacts for their emergency operations people. With AT&T, we actually have the contacts for their CEO and CFO and a lot of people. But if we had a situation, and again, this is a hypothetical, okay? We don't have a coronavirus case within 500 miles, not just in Texas. I don't believe there are any in Oklahoma, Louisiana, New Mexico, or Arkansas, right? So we don't even have any with
I mean,
states.
the only ones that came back from the charter. But,
Yeah, I don't consider those, when somebody comes in a quarantine tent and goes to a secure military facility, that's traveler cases that were not the same. So, but if we play that hypothetical, what we found is each time we have a public health emergency, you can go back to West Nile virus or you can look at Ebola. Everyone has jumped in and done what we asked them to do, and I'm confident that starting with our media partners who, in a public health emergency, are vital to getting the information out, that everyone will work to get that information out.
you'd mentioned that ability to test locally. Approximately when do you think that'll be online?
We're working, again, I was speaking to the lab earlier this morning. We are trying to get it, as soon as possible. We think within the week, but we are working very hard on that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Juan.
Thank you very much.
Get some rest.
No such
No
thing.
such
All
thing.
right, so this takes us to the consent agenda. Dr. Garcia, did you want to pull personnel, any part of it for separate?
Yes, Judge, and I just want to put, I would like to, and I say a few
So
comments after.
we're going to take up personnel with all matters of personnel. Is it just sheriffs, or what do you want?
Sheriff and juvenile.
Okay, we're going to take up all matters of personnel, absent sheriff and juvenile.
So moved.
Second.
And I just want to say one
And I
thing.
misspoke, we're taking up all matters of consent except for personnel, sheriffs, and juvenile. You moved that.
Yeah, and
She seconded. And I just want to mention, so on page 20 here, we have under sheriff's training, $1,500 to Blue Media in the non-compliant payments. From what I understand, so these are criminal law and traffic manuals ordered without a briefing for next day delivery. And then looking into it, there didn't seem to be any reason to get these traffic manuals and criminal law books for next day. It's not a huge deal, but we should be, briefing things properly rather than, pushing them into the non-compliant pile. I mean, we have a process and we should be following it.
Good point.
I like your shorthand there, too. All right.
call the question.
All right, questions been called. Any further comments? All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, so now we take up personnel for juvenile and the sheriff.
So moved.
Motion by Price, there a second?
Second.
Second by Koch. Any discussion?
Yes, Judge, I know that, we've been talking about how we're going to change the practices of hiring, how can we do better, and I know, the sheriff as well as the juvenile department director have been working on this. I have a very good meeting last week with Mr. Wilson, our HR director, and I understand we're working already, we have a plan, we have a cost on how we can implement this plan, to be able to hire a more diverse workforce in Dallas County, but not only to hire, also retain and groom and have the next generation of leaders, that are going to work for Dallas County. So with that being said, I know that Mr. Wilson has been on the record saying he was working on it with Mr. Martin. I think the plan is already settled. I know that some of us have already looked into it. I really hope that this can move forward. Obviously, there is going to be a cost involved, and I hope that you all can support it, seeing the need that we have in Dallas County to be a more inclusive, more diverse workforce. With that being said, thank you, and I will look forward to see the briefing to put the funds necessary for new way of hiring in Dallas County. Thank you.
Well, it's not a new way of hiring, it's a way of tracking what we are in fact
It
doing.
has a component of everything, Commissioner Price.
It's a way of tracking what we're already doing. I continue to say that what is missing is that people, you fish, the pool is what the pool is. And people can only hire from the pool. How many people are applying? And the machines, the vehicle that he is requesting will not be about recruiting. It'll just say who is in fact applying. And then you'll be able to, and speak for yourself.
But before we do that, let's look at the difference in Mr. Beatty and the sheriff's office, because it's essentially the same job. Let's look at detention officer, okay? Mr. Beatty has been able to, in a running total since 9 of 19, and it's gotten better, by the way, as time goes on. He's been able to get about a third of his men detention officers to be Hispanic, and when you add in the Anglos, he's at about, right at about a third there. And then when you go to the female, it gets even better. It's about 50-50. Now you go back down to the sheriff, and it's, about 15%. And then you go over, and that with the men. And then you go over with the women on, the sheriff, and it's like about, 6-7%. So, and I think the difference is you've got, just to be blunt, you've got a lot different HR help there. You've got, and I want to commend you, Mr. Beatty, for doing, I'm not against any of my friends here, but we've got a consistent problem. We've got people in our jail who are Hispanic. We've got people who need jobs who are Hispanic, but we can't get a fair hiring of Hispanics in the sheriff's office.
Is there a difference in custody between juvenile and the sheriff's department in terms of what the oversight, the regulatory body requires for officers in those facilities?
Yes, sir, both are more stringent than the rest of the county.
Well, and that 1 to 8 ratio that he's dealing with the difference between the 1 to 48 ratio that the sheriff's dealing with, number one. Number two, and again, most of them, when you look at the difference, even what the Texas Juvenile Justice Division, THJD, requires for Mr. Beatty versus what the Texas Commission on Jail Standards requires for the sheriff is different.
Well,
and that's the reason this machine that he is requesting will give us what the reservoir looks like.
Well, and again, Commissioner, if we want to talk about the reservoir and the differences, You know, you always say that if we don't get what we want, we're not fishing in the right pool. Well, we're probably not fishing in the right pool. Fishing or not in whatever pool, we have an issue. And with that is the
don't have a-
diversity
you
in
don't have the
hiring.
issue.
Yes,
The issue-
we do. And let me put everything straight, okay? The strategic priorities are to attract and retain the talent, effective HR systems and processes, build risk management program, and track and have data. And that is all we have to do. And for that, we're gonna need expertise. We can close our eyes, or we can just continue to do what we know hasn't worked for a long time, or we can see something different, try something that will make Dallas County workforce reflect Dallas County diversity. And that's my point,
And these are
I'm
the
sticking
same
by it.
Well, you
arguments
can
you
stick
hear.
to it all you want
Yes,
to. You
I mean,
don't know.
I
My
do
point
know,
is that
and I've been
I-
looking at this
look,
for quite some time, Commissioner.
And the problem
I'm
is,
using your-
even if you look at the number of people who've been dismissed, you have more people on the IAD and all that's being dismissed who are not, who are Hispanic. So look at the ratio of that. So, I mean, it's a lot of issues. So as I said, some of us are calling it a little differently
But
and watch.
Commissioner, this is the same argument in reverse, that right now what we have is an incredible majority of African Americans serving in those positions. And what you're doing is you're making the same arguments that majorities make in all of these situations, but the fact remains that we're a 54% Hispanic county. Half the people in our jail now are Hispanic, and we can find Hispanics who want to make a good living to work in the jail.
Don't want to work those rotating shifts. You know.
Don't want to walk those words. No, you got to be careful about that, because there's been too many people who have said those people don't want to work that type of hard.
No.
That's not cool. That's not cool.
Well, I don't give a damn about it being cool. I'm telling you that some of us are tracking it. Okay? You gonna speak up, or you want me to talk for you?
No, sir. What I can tell you is that both the Sheriff's Department, Juvenile, the rest of the county is very interested in understanding data related to hiring. And so I've had great discussions with Chief Bonner about what we want to do with our recruiting system and how that can help broaden who we're going after. And deeper to that, it'll help us with predictive analytics about how are we going to address the issues we've got about attracting talent into the future, which is a major problem as well. And so I've had the chance to speak with 3 of the commissioners about my request, and have not spoken with the judge or Commissioner Daniel. That'll be later this week. But yes, I think that.
What does the machine that you're asking us to do, what does it do?
So this is our recruiting system. This is Taleo. And so currently, we use it basically to advertise jobs, and then we track when we hire a person. But what this machine at the very beginning, what this system can do, at the very beginning, is provide. Let me give you an example of what's the rate of qualified applicants that apply for a job. I can't even tell you that right now. But what I can tell you is that if there's a big disparity, I can then start to tweak how we're advertising. And then it can tell me what sort of demographics do we have so that I can see a rate. What are we doing? Is it working or not? And that's what I can't tell you right now. I can't get rate. I can just get a dump of information. So for instance, of the 3,500 people that applied for a DSO job over the last 14 months, I can tell you what that demographic was. What I can't tell you is, are the interventions that we're engaging in making a difference right now? And that's what I need to do. That'll take all the participants in the county actually using the system, following every step. In addition to that, our applicants will be exposed to, this is a great tool that lets me know where I am in the process, which is another issue. So this will attack, in addition to recruiting plan, this will attack issues that we've got with just people knowing where they stand, applicants, rate of hire, demographics, just make us competitive. Is
Let's
what
go
this
the next
investment
step
will do.
That is
further,
the key,
because
make us competitive.
The reality
because
is we
part of
haven't changed our recruitment methods either in years. I mean, we've got to do some different things. And one of the things I'm tasked by with, to get with the department, and let's just be creative about how we are reaching our population, because we keep doing the same things. We keep having job fairs and those kind of things. Maybe that's not the right thing to do.
And this is anecdotal, and it may not be the whole issue, but I sat down with the Sheriff's Deputies Association last week, and they wanted to talk about a number of their problems in hiring and also just problems they have with retention. So they're pushing for their licensing pay, the FTO pay increase, and shift differential pay. And a number of the folks sitting in front of me said, I've sat at those job fairs and everyone walks past us, and if they do stop by, they ask about what's your licensing pay, what's your FT, and shift differential. And they, those that kind of did their homework before they got there know not to walk past the sheriff's department's booth because everyone else offers these things. So I think what we may be looking at is, Mr. Beatty has an apples to apples offering, and he's able to bring, the spectrum, the diverse population that looks like the population. But, and as I spoke with Dr. Garcia before, I mean, we're going to be behind the 8 ball because, when you have Hispanics that are Spanish speakers, other places are paying them very handsomely for being able to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And that's, and when we don't do that, of course, we're gonna have a pretty major shortfall. So, we have a number of levels where we're not compensating our sheriff's deputies appropriately. And, that's gonna hinder us with overall retention and, of course, getting these folks in the door as it is.
I'd like to follow up a little bit on that too, because I think we have been focusing on fishing in the right pool, which obviously I think, I would agree wholeheartedly to obviously, if it's not working right now, then something has got to change. Otherwise, it will be the same results. But I'd also like to take a look at what we're doing on retaining people and which of the areas are making it attractive enough for people to stay here. And then the point was being made on terminations. Is there anything in that area that we should be focusing on and having a greater understanding of where there are problems or ways to make it smoother so that they are fair across the board and are not unfairly biased towards one group or another group?
Thank you, Commissioner. And I am encouraged about that we're seeing a change, the light at the end of the tunnel. And I want to thank Mr. Beatty, the Sheriff Department, and of course, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Martin for, putting their heads together and do something different for a change.
So if I'm understanding, then you're voting for this.
No, this is not presented yet, Judge. I'm going to abstain in today's vote.
You're saying that.
Yeah.
And last question to you, Bob, do we have an indication that if we buy this machine, everyone will use it fully?
It's software. It's not a machine. It's software.
It's upgrade to the Taleo system that we currently have, so.
Yes, I'm confident. There's enough common ground. I'm confident that we'll be using the system.
Well, you do have a choice. We see that with Oracle. People can just choose not to use it.
Exactly.
Okay.
We can't say machine. I got this idea of an HR abacus. No.
Turn it on.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
I'm sorry,
abstain-
I am going to abstain. Sorry.
And I'll join you in abstaining and look forward to the upgrade. All right, that motion carries 3-0. Two abstentions.
Judge, before we keep going, can I have a moment of privilege? The Fire Marshal's Office has been asked to participate in an internship program for students enrolled in El Centro College Fire Protection and Safety Technology Program. The degree plan requires 320 hours of external field work. The participating students for the spring semester are here with us today, and they are coming forward, and I appreciate that. They are Dahai Briley, Fernando Diaz, Douglas Gonzalez, Rodrigo Lozano, Brian Redwine, and Oscar Ruiz. And the internship program will provide an in-depth overview into the management of the Fire Marshal's Office. The department operational areas of focus for the students will include the Fire Marshal's Office operations and procedures, fire inspections and safety inspections, review of fire protection systems in buildings, familiarization with emergency equipment and operations, interaction with the public, and documentation of emergency incidents. Fire Marshal, would you please introduce who is with you? And I'm very happy, to have you all here. I hope you enjoy your day in Dallas County.
Thank you, Commissioners and Judge. We got Chief Robinson here. He's the co-chair on the fire technology program. And these internship students back here will be working with the with our volunteer fire department out there in the county in the unincorporated areas.
And as a former student from El Centro College, English 101, I welcome you. I know the fantastic work that they do at El Centro. Thank you, Fire Marshal.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you very much for what you're getting ready to do, because it is such a boost for everybody. It's good for the community. Thank you.
And hopefully you consider working for Dallas County in the future. Thank you. A round of applause. Yay.
Next up is the award of bids. That's before us. On number 2 on the award bid, is ASC here? Okay. Because these Ford Interceptors, it says utility police pursuit vehicle. These Ford Interceptors, were those the ones that they had some issue with either emissions or something with regards to that vehicle?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Price. A few years back, the Ford Interceptors, there was a problem with, I guess, emissions getting into the cab of the vehicle. Ford determined that it was part of the upfitting process. It wasn't anything to do with the manufacturing of those vehicles, and that's been resolved. So it was the targeted area was the upfitting. That was the problem.
And these units are $9,500 more than the Charger. That we can't get the Charger, but
That's correct, sir. We were informed that
There
Dodge.
are a lot of issues with the dadgum Chargers.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Price, that's the truth.
Yeah, I know you don't want
We
to,
just-
comment about somebody's product, but hell, I mean, as he talked about earlier, talking association, you talk to individuals who use the unit, you had a lot of problems with that dadgum unit. And far as I'm concerned.
well, we're saying here it's because limited availability of the Charger. It's because it's not a good. If it's because it's not right, then we got to get it right on the record.
Well, I'm saying that if you look, and I'll ask you, were there a lot of issues with regards to that vehicle in terms of a pursuit vehicle?
Yes, Commissioner Price, the Charger, after about 36,000 miles, we have front-end issues, brake issues. You know, they're expensive to maintain. The engines are big, and they essentially kind of pull away from the body of the vehicle. So there have been issues with them from a maintenance perspective.
Is there an option?
That's important to this body, though, because we got to know going forward that, you know, if we see that we're purchasing Chargers, we got to ask the second question.
But they have been saying that for some time. In fact, some of us have talked about just going down the highway, bumper, you talked about pulling away, bumpers come off. I mean, I'm talking about not having contact, I'm talking about driving.
Is it sustainable to go forward with the Ford Interceptors, though, or do we need to find another fleet?
And that's what I just
base
asked.
Is there an option?
Well, I know that there are other options out there for police departments to consider. I'm not on the evaluation team.
Right.
The Sheriff's Department and other police departments do that pretty extensively. I think they take a pretty extensive vertical look at what's out there and what's available, and they all talk to each other. So they communicate really well in terms of what units perform the best.
And
I will
I
tell
thought
you,
in the past, they have recommended for us to buy the Chargers.
they like the Chargers from what I understand. I don't see anybody from the Sheriff's Department here. What they've communicated to us is that they are they're very fast vehicles.
And they wanted the Charger, if I remember correctly.
I understand, but he's done the kind of analytical work. After 36,000 miles, things starts coming apart, the way they're driving them. You know, these vehicles,
It take a lot of wear and use, but
36,000 miles, that's no
That's
mileage at all.
Yeah. Right,
And then we've got a policy that says we're gonna keep them around for 100, 150,000, I think 150,000 the outside, 100,000 optimal. You know, a third of them, the dadgum thing's coming apart. And this is not them saying, this is me, so you don't get into liability stuff. But my point is that we've had complaints about them. The reason I even brought up the dadgum Interceptor is because of what he just said with regards to the exhaust getting into the cabin.
Well,
Yes, sir, that's
and
been
I was
remedied.
going to bring up that cost difference. And the only thing that I'd say about this is that I understand this, if this is a necessary stopgap right now, we need to make this purchase. But if we need to move to a platform shift, I mean, do it sooner than later. I mean, nip it in the bud.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give him on that. But for our officers, the only thing I was talking about, the 9,500, I understand. As long as you tell me manufacturingly 2 years ago, that thing is dissipated, that's the only issue
sir.
I had with the Interceptor.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
We'll do some research before our replacement going into the next budget, so we can make a
Before we
recommendation to
spend
the
this?
court. Well, we need these now, but
Yeah.
in terms of our replacement for next year, we need to do
Right,
our
because
research
if
on
I
it.
remember correctly, our last discussion, it was about not only these cars were preferred by law enforcement, they were also less expensive.
Right.
It was the best bid. So if we're having issues that, create the fact that it's more as expensive because we have to replace them earlier, or we have to constantly be fixing them, hey, I get it, probably will be a time to be sure that we go in a different direction. But at this point, these are needed, and I am going to vote to buy. Ready, Judge, you can, I move for approval.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Do we
carries.
do it on the, okay.
Motion carries unanimously, I think. All right. Oh. Next, we have,
Staff pulled for the record, Judge, Mr. Martin.
should have
Did you do your RFPs?
Okay.
You did M?
Number 19.
Did you do M?
We didn't do M yet.
You didn't do M yet.
We didn't do the
Oh,
RFPs.
All right, we'll now consider the RFP.
Move it.
Second.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Yeah, John's second. Okay, all those, is there any discussion? Oh, and I had one quick
Is this coming up?
question. I had a quick question on that, Mr. Frosch, but I think I sent you the wrong thing. Why 3 as opposed to 2 or 4 or whatever? I mean, why did we pick 3? Is it just we always have 3?
They had 3-year contract?
Right, the department decided they wanted to have 3 providers
Okay.
to have for
And that's what we
demand and
had- that's
capacity
what we
issues.
had last time.
Yes, sir.
That's what we had last
Yes.
time.
Okay, all those in favor?
And thank you for answering all my questions, Mr. Fresh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you would have answered mine, but I sent you the wrong thing when I asked that. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next we have our court orders. If there's a pull that Shay doesn't have, but here's what I've got. I've got court orders 01 through 38 and addendums 39 through 41, pulling 32, 33, and 34 for a separate vote.
And staff is pulling 07 and 019.
That's okay. That's
Staff, those are staff pulls. And we'll bring those
For a
back
later vote?
for a later vote, for a later time.
Okay.
07 and 019 we're pulling.
Okay.
07 and 019, yeah.
Right.
And 32, 33, and 34.
All right, so on those that are, do I have a motion on those that, you would say that again? I mean, a motion on, 01 through, basically through 41, pulling 7, 19, 32, 33, and 34.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 7 and 19 have been pulled by staff for a vote later. The first thing that's up is 32. Is there a motion on 32?
So moved.
second.
Why is it a 6-month extension?
All those, I'll tell you what, we could take 30, I'm just abstaining because of the wages that are paid. But I appreciate the work that Mr. Frosch is doing to get us into a better place. So we could take 32 through 34 together in the interest of time. Amend it.
Let's ask the clerk. We need to take these one by one, or?
What's easier for you?
Yeah, they have to be one by one.
Okay,
if they're separate.
so we're, 32 is before us. All those in favor signify by saying
Can I ask
aye.
a quick question? Why is it a 6-month?
It's a 6-month because I'm going to bring the specifications back on your next court order. So I'm just consolidating these contracts into one contract by group. I'm going to bring it back. So I wanted to do the extensions for all three at the same time, so we could bring that back and give us time to do the process. We will be bringing back a discussion on the wage floor at the same time, so.
Okay. And this has been the way that we've been doing all of them, janitorial contracts, right,
Yes,
Mr. Fresh?
32 before,
All those,
33.
no,
no,
32.
32.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, and I abstain.
Move 33.
32nd.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I abstain.
34?
Move 34, I move 34.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I abstain. All of those pass 4-0 with one abstention.
Well, let me, okay, we got it. Let me just say again, thanks to our partners on the Plaquemines group. Glad to see y'all in the house today, and thank y'all for coming up. We're moving forward. Smith and
Oh, I need to make a comment on the miscellaneous brief.
There were some typos and math mistakes in the miscellaneous and travel briefing, but that doesn't mean that that's actually happening. You know, yeah, you want to tell us?
Well,
all
I need to
those?
look at it because I wasn't aware of the one.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to make your comments?
Well, so,
I have some.
Budget was kind enough to get to me on short notice. I noticed in the travel briefing that in IT, we've got, there's the complaint that usually pops up around Richard Ballard, that he does a lot of traveling. So we had 2 instances of traveling that total in $14,000 for 3 people in each instance. So just his portion of that travel is $4,700. So in context, though, looking back at 2018, from what they pulled for me, it's either $14,000 worth of travel in 2018 just for Richard Ballard alone, conferences, education, hotels, all the rest of those pieces. It may include, and I need to go back to these numbers because I just got them, this additional 2,100. So it's as low as 14,000 for 2018, as high as 16,000, and then same kind of thing on 2019. I didn't see any overlapping charges, but of course, you know, in this type of situation, let's be delicate. So it's as low as last year's travel, just for Richard Ballard, $10,000, $10,615, conferences, hotels, the flights. There's this additional 2,300. That may just be the local piece. So it could be as high as $12,000 for travel in 19. So we're off to a flaming start, if you will, $4,700 in travel just for Richard Ballard. Boy, that looks to be problematic.
Somebody needs to follow through.
Certainly, we can go through and actually take a look. Some of the conferences actually have been ones that typically they've been asked to basically go to by some of the actual departments, such as the county clerk's office. But certainly, we can take a look at those, sir. That's no problem.
Yeah, those numbers are high. So, I mean, there may be a justification for it, but it's got to be there because I think the public's going to start to see that, and that does not look right.
But typically, there is justification for all the travel that he goes on. But certainly, we can take a look at it and provide the report accordingly.
Well, I'd like to make a comment too, if I could, on number 2, the criminal justice, and it's the approval of the use of the FUSE grant, which is a new age in Dallas County, and for other entities involved in looking at making a connection between our jail, hospital, and organizations with the community so that we do not release anybody into homelessness. That a housing navigator is going to be there, and it's working with the United Way and a lot of other partners to have the funding, but then making those new bridges between itunes between Dallas County services and the community, so that we are watching more closely how we do business and where people end up. So thank you very much to Criminal Justice and all the work they've done, to City Square and what they're doing, Parkland, and United Way for their piece in this.
And I just want to follow on that. We also need to see at the positions, the 6 or 7 countywide navigators. I talked to Ms. Randolph, and we'll be sure that we have, bilingual staff in all of them as well.
And
Thank you so much. I also wanted to, point out the item number 28, which is the final payment for the acceptance and closeout of North Haven Trail phases 2B and 2C. Thank you, Ms. Blair, and I want to thank you, my colleagues, and of course, the city council members. This was definitely the first in a kind trail from east to west, from 75 all the way to almost 35. A great opportunity to not only connect to Irving, which is the longest trail connector from Coppell all the way to Grand Prairie, but also to Backman Lake in the south. So it's a great opportunity for economic development, and not only that, but also healthy living. And I want to thank also our partners, not only Ms. Alberta Blair, but all the partners, specifically the Dallas City Council members, past and present, Narvaez, Getz, Kleiman, and of course, same here in District 2, Commissioner Koch and Commissioner Cantrell for their support. And before that, this was an idea that thought to be impossible, and nevertheless, guess what? We changed it, and it happened, and it's working. And the next phase,
I
Commissioner
cannot
Daniels,
wait.
goes
I
to
cannot.
you. So
Yeah.
I'm sure
That's
you're
the
going to
next
make it
step.
happen just as well. And last but not least, Wildlife Parkway, which is a Grand Prairie project that will continue, the trail system that hopefully will get to Commissioner Price, sometime soon.
Can't get the damn bridge built.
Oh, Commissioner, I'm sure you're gonna get it, and we're going to make it happen. That Golden Dam Bridge will be done, and we will make it. So with that, thank you, Ms. Blair. I say, gone. I say gone
I
because
wanted
my,
to say thank you on Public Works on the number 24 also, because that's using the multi-mobility aspect of what we're trying to do here, so that, and it's a connection with DART on the trail line, so that whether you're walking, whether you're cycling, however, you will be able to use multimodal means for people to get to, and this is to, it's the Santa Fe Trail going to Baylor. So that connection between East Dallas, Pleasant Grove, with Baylor using the trail system, I think is very creative, innovative, and just a way of helping everybody have access that they may not have had before.
Well, Ms. Blair, I expect you to get involved with that dadgum bridge. I've said that tongue in cheek, but I want that dadgum bridge because Encore is basically, they've given us 3 windows. I've had problems with drainage, the whole 9 yards. And each time I keep missing the window because, and we gotta get piers. This is that dadgum trail, 4.7 miles that, we spent all this money on. And the dadgum bridge, I can't get it in. And it's just a window because Encore, either doing their high usage, they will not shut down power, or, weather has killed it. But you need to get involved. I didn't see Rick, but you need to get involved with that because I want to make sure those piers are right, and especially right there by Stanley Smith, where the dadgum bridge is trying to be installed.
but talking about something that is going to help us with those issues is another item that is in the agenda, which is the software for floodplain permitting, which is one of the issues that Alberta has been advocating for quite some time, and the MCIP project delivery. So new things are happening, hopefully for the benefit of everybody in Dallas County. Thank you, Ms. Blair, for your leadership, and you will have the money.
Okay.
It's been approved.
Okay, okay.
All right. And the typo was very minor on the travel. Under K, it should read 3,300, not 2,900. But we'll make sure the right amount is in there. All right, now we're going to go to our closed session under Chapter 551 of the Government Code. As previously posted, any action as a result of that closed session will take place in a subsequent open
Judge, you gonna
session.
do speakers after closed, or?
Perhaps so, because I need to do some election stuff.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. those two.
I'll tell you this here in a second. All right, we are back in session. We have a matter that needs to be taken up immediately. I'd like to take a motion to delegate authority to the county judge, me, Clay Jenkins, to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Odyssey Group Holding LLC for the county property at 2020 North Beckley, which was item 2 in the executive session. The key points of the agreement include the price of $47 per square foot will be applied for the usable land, which may range from 2.906 what would that be? Feet? 2.906 feet across to 2.497 acres, and $50,000 in earnest money, refundable or non-refundable after 60 days, and a target closing of June 20, and the developer will work with the city to ensure that the county is satisfied with the trail impact, access to trail, and the appropriate design incorporation. Is there a motion?
The motion and, with that caveat, the consideration of the 30 units are in there?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
So there will be 30
affordable,
30 units of affordable housing in perpetuity in this project.
Okay, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. Thank you, Judge, for allowing me to, put this into the record. For the last 7 years, I have been working in the connectivity of Coops Creek. Road and Bridge 4 has put more than $1.5 million, not only in the walkability within the bridge, but also in the design, working with the city, to create a connection, not only with North Oak Cliff and downtown, but also to the east side of Dallas County. The reality is that you all know my record speaks for itself. In this time in my service to the court, I have worked on having the longest trail on the west side of Dallas County system. I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the work that I have done with this court. During all this time, this property has been empty because of the fact that we knew that we needed this property to create an alignment. The city of Dallas have worked in being sure to move this project as fast as possible, but the reality is we have different issues that came out through the process. One of them being the unsafe walkability right now in the Margaret McDermott Bridge. This might take up to 3, but I have here several numbers to be fixed, more than 4, up to 7 years, which is one of the issues of I don't know, that we don't know, nobody knows when is this going to be fixed and where the connection will be at. The reason I'm going to vote against this is not only because even when the plan is right out of the Corps of Engineers, and the Corps of Engineers can take from 2 weeks all the way to years, and we know that. I am concerned that at that time the county will be in a position to fight for this connection, to fight even when I understand in the motion that this developer will do everything in his power to be sure that this connectivity takes care. Reality, there's no assurances that where the bridge will be and where the connector will be. At this point, we have discussed several of the crossings. They're dangerous, and well, as the representative that has put the money, the representative that represents the community that is also going to be affected, I, in good conscience, cannot support this issue, and I want this to be into the record. It's a lot of money and a lot of years that have been spent, and I am concerned about the connectivity and the future of this trail.
And as a representative in whose district it is, I wholeheartedly support it. And for the same reason that she enunciated is the reason I'm supporting it and moving forward.
Well,
And
and
I would just like to say for the record, too, that what has been presented to us, even though in the future there may be some of the concerns that have been expressed, and I respect your closeness with the project over a number of years, but what is being presented today does not have those problems with them. And so I would like to see it going forward, in particular for the 30 units of affordable housing in perpetuity. So with respect, but would like to say, let us follow through and in fact see whether some of those concerns become manifest.
I just want to add that the value of the property has only increased, during the whole time.
And I, for my part, to state a matter of principle, it is wholly inappropriate in my mind for the county government or for any government to hold on to excess land holdings when they could be given to the private market and made fruitful to that market. So despite the fact that we could benefit from a buy and hold strategy, we are not a capitalist entity. We are the government, and it is wholly inappropriate for us to speculate in land. Now, with that being said, all of your concerns are absolutely justified, but I will never support holding on to land merely for the idea that we can speculate that it'll go up to a higher value. The value in private hands will always be more valuable than those in our public hands, particularly when we are not using the land. And it is absolutely unconscionable for government to hold on to parcels of land when it can be developed for the benefit of our local economy.
And Commissioner, to that point, the reality is that a trail, will be beneficial for Dallas County.
Absolutely.
That is my point.
Absolutely.
That was my point. I never expect to say, because there's other properties that just right north, that the county have sold, and I don't think that it was the best value. So, with that being said, I didn't mean to say that we will make less.
And the question's been called, and Dr. Garcia, we're going to do everything in our power to protect that trail in this transaction. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, I'll count that as one no for purposes of voting. It's going to be
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to multiply.
all right. But even with that, it would be, okay, anyway, it's 4-1 and that passes. We're going to take actually, we have public speakers. Will the bailiff please read the rules of decorum for our public speakers?
What number
All
was that?
commission court attendees are hereby advised.
On the executive?
Is conducted in accordance with Dallas County Code, section 74-71. Visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all applause is to be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Disruptive visitors and or registered speakers may be removed and are subject to the penalties provided in the state of Texas Penal Code, section 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion on any one topic is limited to 30 minutes.
All right, our first speaker, as always, when she signs up, is
Dolores Phillips, address 567 West Dickey Road, Apartment A, Grand Prairie, Texas, 75051. You do have documents. These documents were filed with the city secretary's office. This has been a decade-old open quid pro quo, literally, and it's documented. I remember Judge Jenkins going over and visiting the Ebola patient, and when he came back, he slammed the gavel, literally, and said that his daughters had been shunned because the teachers didn't know what was going on, and you could perfectly understand that. But seemingly when minorities speak of injustices, they are this disgruntled, dangerous type of people, but when non-minorities speak, they are somewhat courageous. There's a guy by the name of Robert Hawkland who's in federal court right now. 20-some years with GPISD, spoke and questioned on behalf of teachers, students, and other employees. He was thrown under the bus being a whistleblower. Joel Fitzgerald, former police chief of Fort Worth, whistleblowed and said federal agents and citizens are in trouble because others who have access to the database with no security clearance is putting things out that's putting everybody in danger. Nick Novello of DPD spoke, whistleblowed of the ticket corruption, which was true. They tried to get rid of him, but he let it be known ahead of time on YouTube that they were trying to set him up on a bogus psychological evaluation for being a whistleblower and crossing the thin blue line. Shana Lopez lost her career. Joel Fitzgerald said it's time to drain the swamp. President Trump said the same thing. He said it's time to drain the swamp. President Trump has CIA, FBI, and other agencies under investigation after he was acquitted of a quid pro quo. Here you have a fire marshal, city fire marshal, involved being a pawn for the city of Dallas open quid pro quo. It's documented you have a Dallas County sheriff being a pawn to retaliate against me for reporting ongoing cover-up within a cover-up at the Dallas Police Department. You sabotaged my education. You went in schools. You went in libraries, stole documents off of flash drives. You did that. So it's big. So just as easy as you manipulated my education is the way that the votes are being manipulated in the favor of whomever can manipulate the votes. I don't fight with police. You have my name connected to a fabricated police report. How many others are there? It's not just mine. I'm gonna continue to take your blows. And for my ladies, beyond race, born with vaginas, you can't tell Me Too stories and methodically sexually harass yourself.
Dolores,
Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is right. Thank you. No, hang on one second, please. Oh, never mind. Our next speaker is Mr. Rajesh Shetty. Mr. Rajesh Shetty. Mr. Rajesh. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Distinguished Judge and distinguished members of the court.
Go ahead and say your name and your address. And then
Yes, my name is Rajesh Shetty. And
You're going to have to speak up. Project. No, just project.
Project, oh, all right. This is the first time. My name is Rajesh Shetty, and I live at 5824 Lanham, Dallas, Texas, 75206. And I'm here on behalf of myself and my wife, Dajana Garcia Shetty. This is a personal issue, not a community-related issue, so I hope I'm at the right forum. This is with regards to my taxes, property taxes. I understand this is the governing body of the taxing unit of the Dallas County Tax Unit, so that's why I'm raising this. There was an issue that happened while paying my property taxes on the Dallas County website on 31st of January. And when my wife attempted that payment, there was an error that she received, a technical error. But there was not a date time stamp on the error. And since she thought that it was just a traffic issue on the website on that day, she assumed that it was a traffic issue and she didn't follow it up. And myself, I came to know about it on the 2nd of February. And when I heard about it, I understood that she was planning to talk to the Dallas County office, tax office on Monday, February 3rd. But in the meanwhile, I got concerned and I went to the website and was able to finish the payment process. Having said that, I went on the 3rd of February to the Dallas County Tax Unit and I explained what happened. But the penalty had already been applied. So across the two properties that I have, the penalty was around $2,000. The total tax bill was $30,000 and the penalty was $2,000. So my request is to see if we can, if you can waive that penalty. I already paid it just to ensure that I do not get additional penalty this month. But that's the request if it is possible. If this is not the right forum, I just need to understand what is the process to appeal to the governing body of the taxing unit.
Let me ask you a question while we're here. Mr. Hamilton, what is the right forum?
The entire part of it, but I kind of caught on to the tail end. I assume that the taxes were paid after January 31.
So we attempted to pay on January 31st.
Yes.
On the website.
Yes.
And there was an error that we received.
He's asking a question.
You can provide just public information of what needs to go beyond that.
Well, but I can't ask the DA a question. I can.
He can actually make that play through John Ames, through the tax
Right.
office.
Oh, is that, okay, that was the question. That's the
Yeah,
question.
the location of where he needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there, typically, I can't speak for Mr. Ames, but typically, if there's a documented error at the time that you try to submit it, that is one of the permissible reasons under state law that you can waive it. So you would have to do
No,
that.
but
with
the
tax
error
office.
doesn't have the timestamp. So we went to the tax.
You can't discuss.
Okay.
Okay.
I let talk to.
But that's where you
Let
got.
him direct. Let him direct.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, next, I hope they picked that up on my mic. And the next is Monica Jackson. Miss Monica Jackson, Miss Monica Jackson. No, Miss Jackson's not here. Last is William Hopkins. I think I see his shoulder hiding behind that. I see you. Come on up.
Yeah, I saw his red pants.
There we go. Is that Tommy Hilfiger or is that the Texas flag?
Uh-huh.
Oh, can we reset the clock? You're still on the other guy. There we go. Oh, no, wait, no, he hadn't even said anything yet, so go back to the 3.
That's good.
Go ahead, we'll get it
That's
fixed.
good, that's good. I'm here again, Judge Jenkins. My son was robbed at Kimball High School. The police officer told me that, he told me to go away. There wasn't nothing gonna be done, Judge Jenkins. My son was robbed and cut up, and I dialed 911, and the white police officer took me to jail and left the kid that robbed my son in the Kimball High School. So I asked John that year, I said, John, my son got robbed, and police took me to jail and left the kid that robbed my son in the school building. So John told me, William, we need more John Wiley Price. I can't do everything. So I told him, okay. So I do it myself. So I come down here and I go to the city, I go to the school board, and they all voted for me not to speak. John, instead of helping me, him and Lee Jackson voted for me not to speak every week. Well, you can't speak every week. You speak once a month. And then he endorsed Merle Rollins. Merle Rollins' family owned slaves. So Merle Rollins endorsed this thing where, William, you can't speak every week. You speak once a month. And the kid went on. I don't know what happened to the kid when my son got robbed. I went to jail. Henry Wade gave me 160 days for calling 911 for the police to help me with my son. I ran in the street to stop the police. Police didn't stop. Him and Charles Cato was working at the school, and Officer Sims. They was getting paid to work at Kimball. And they left the kid in the school and let me go to jail. The police at the Southwest Station, I want to say they was a Ku Klux Klan, Judge Jenkins, and that's why nobody wouldn't help me. And that's why Henry Wade Jr. gave me that time for nothing. I went to jail for nothing. And I believe they was Klan, the police at the Southwest Station in the county, some kind of way was the Ku Klux Klan and railroaded me. And Gabriel Bates, they railroaded that kid. He did 10 years for raping a 3-year-old that never was raped. I gave the sexual assault to John from Children's Medical Center, where the kid wasn't raped. John let him stay in prison 10 years for raping a 3-year-old that never was raped in West Dallas. And nobody ain't gonna say nothing now. I'll be back next month.
All right, this concludes our public speakers. There's no other matters before us. We've already done our close, so the court stands adjourned. Yeah, you can come up here or I can go